This is Twit.
Bruce Schneier's blog, which generated a tweet storm, was titled Facebook Plans on Backdooring WhatsApp. And that's such big news that it was to be the title of this week's podcast. I had it. I mean, I immediately grabbed it, grabbed the link, read the story, thought, oh my God, thanked a few people who tweeted the news to me when I saw it, and I had provisionally titled today's podcast. But Bruce subsequently learned from sources who are far more reliable, and Leo, you'll get a kick. You'll be smiling when you learn who it was that gave him the bad information, because I similarly was fooled by this same organization a few months ago, and you said, no, Steve, they're not very reliable. Anyway, so he found out from sources more reliable, though not from Facebook directly, that the story, which was sourced from Forbes. There you go. Yep. Yeah. Brought new, and in fact, when I followed the links, I got a big kick out of that. Even more so, but I'll get to that in a second. Which brings new meaning to the term extrapolation, because that's what this Forbes guy did. To Bruce's credit, he immediately corrected the record once he was confident of what was actually going on. And of course, many people know that I often quote Bruce. He's credited with one of my favorite bits of pithy wisdom, which is, and our listeners have heard me say this, attacks never get weaker, they only ever get stronger. Yeah. Which just keeps, unfortunately, being true all the time. So anyway, for those who tweeted and may not have seen his follow-up, I wanted to make sure that the record was corrected. So the bogus Forbes article was titled, "The Encryption Debate is Over, Dead at the Hands of Facebook." And again, just to make sure everyone knows, that's not true. The four relevant paragraphs of what is now the quite thoroughly debunked Forbes column, within which this author, the Forbes column author, twice cites his own previous, also bogus Forbes articles as supporting references, and which quite reasonably set Bruce off last week. Those four paragraphs read, "To solve this problem, Facebook announced earlier this year preliminary results from its efforts to move a global mass surveillance infrastructure directly onto users' devices, where it can bypass the protections of end-to-end encryption. In Facebook's vision, the actual end-to-end encryption client itself, such as WhatsApp, will include embedded content moderation and blacklist filtering algorithms. These algorithms will be continually updated from a central cloud service, but will run locally on the user's device, scanning each clear text message before it is sent and each encrypted message after it is decrypted. The company even noted that when it detects violations, it will need to quietly stream a copy of the formerly encrypted content back to its central servers for further analysis, even if the user objects, acting as a true wiretapping service. Facebook's model entirely bypasses, he's writing, the encryption debate by globalizing the current practice of compromising devices by building those encryption bypasses directly into the communications clients themselves and deploying what amounts to machine-based wiretaps to billions of users at once." Now, if you read that, I mean, it sounds reasonable on its face. You would think, oh my God. And that's what Bruce read. And so, he wanted to give this broader attention, which he did. And the within the links to that text is a link to the same author's previous story on May 28th, which was titled "Facebook is already working towards Germany's end-to-end encryption backdoor vision." And to support that, he links to two other of his even more previous articles. One was Facebook's Edge AI content scanning brings NSA-style surveillance and censorship to the planet. And the second article was Deep Learning will be the end of end-to-end encryption. So I don't know if this guy's got some bug up is about Facebook, or if he's starving for things to write about. I don't know what the backstory is, but I mean, it ends up that and I was curious, so I read all of that. And for example, in one of those supporting stories, he writes, even more worryingly, Facebook's presentation alluded to the company's need to covertly harvest unencrypted illicit messages from users' devices without their knowledge and before the content has been encrypted or after it has been decrypted, using the client application itself to access encrypted in-transit content. And then he says, while it stopped short, it, meaning Facebook, stopped short of saying it was actively building such a backdoor, the company noted that when Edge content moderation flagged a post in an end-to-end encrypted conversation as a violation, the company needed to be able to access unencrypted contents to further train its algorithms, which would likely require transmitting an unencrypted copy of the user's device directly to Facebook without their approval. So this is sort of a mishmash of supposition and the extension of illusions that are being made. Anyway, so one thing that occurred to me as I was reading all of this is to ask the question whether is it clear that point-to-point, user-to-user, one-to-one, end-to-end encrypted conversations should be moderated in the first place? I mean, the idea of an encrypted conversation being moderated in any way does sort of seem to fly in the face of the whole concept of a totally private two-party dialogue. I'm having a conversation with one other person over an encrypted channel. So, the idea of that being moderated seems like odd to me. It's not, maybe you don't want to use WhatsApp. Maybe it's clear that it's moderated and there's going to be some sort of a banner on. I don't know. The whole idea of a two-party end-to-end encrypted conversation having moderation by Facebook seems, antithetical. But whatever the case, Bruce, I think, can certainly be forgiven for believing the extrapolations of this Forbes author. And I guess also Facebook does share some responsibility in this, because based on their past and all of the privacy abuses we know that they have engaged in, it's believable to imagine that they might do this. But just for the record, it is wrong. Bruce updated his original blog posting, adding at the bottom, he said, edited to add on August 2nd. He said, this story is wrong. Read my correction. And then he explained what happened. So anyway, we know that something is going to be happening before long, because there is this tension now between encryption and government that isn't going to be going away. What we don't know is how it's going to end up being resolved. And again, Facebook the CEO or CTO, one of the top guys at WhatsApp, did officially respond and say, no, we don't have any. The Forbes stories are completely incorrect. We have absolutely no intention of doing anything like that. So anyway, I can understand that Bruce would do that. I could, if I followed a story and it seemed factual, I would report it, and then he fixed the record. And we've done the same things in our errata section a few times in the history of this podcast.
Yeah, and the guy, I'm looking at his bio, he's got good credentials. So I think that the author of the original Forbes article just misunderstood. I wouldn't want to impute bad faith on his part, because he was a Google developer expert for the cloud platform, senior fellow at GYU's Center for Cyber and Homeland Security. He's done a lot of good stuff. He's not a hype master. I don't know, but I don't think
it may well be that his bringing
it's a good thing
to light.
Yes.
Yes. That it may well have headed Facebook and WhatsApp away from considering doing something like this by immediately flooding it with light, and then allowing them the opportunity to say, whoa, no, that's not what we meant. We never intended to do that. So, which, would be good.